Live.
Yay.
It's a live podcast.
First one, right?
Stephen Hutch talking Chicago baseball, which is, there's nothing better than baseball this time of year. First place teams over the weekend. 4 first place teams, first time in ever. I was trying to explain that one to Jill because you can only go back to 69 because before 69 there were no divisions, so you couldn't have first place teams. So it's one of those statistical oddity factoid things that people find interesting. That
but all 4 of them in the same town. I mean, which actually is really hard to do anyway because there's not.
When are the Sox and Cubs in town?
Right.
Like twice a year?
When are they both in first place? And the fact that.
Never. 73. And they both finished like below 500.
And they're both going to face the first place team of another division all on the same day. Now, really, it can only happen where? In New York and Chicago and
if you want to count the Bay Area or Southern California, something like that.
It is an oddity, but it was still kind of neat. Yeah,
I enjoyed it. A lot to get to. I don't know where you want to start. I was on Twitter, like, driving in to come and get you, where this one of these BP Wrigleyville guys posted something about changing the Cubs lineup and flip-flopping Hayward and Fowler. And I'm it's hard when you're driving. I shouldn't really be looking at Twitter during the stoplights and stuff, so nobody squeal on me. And my first thought was, here's a team that's 24-6 with like some astronomical not winning percentage, but the run differential, which I'm not sure means much, but we're over 100 now. We've won 24 games. We've only lost 6. We have a run differential that they have to go back to Christy Mathewson to find a team that's done better, or like the 39 Yankees or something. And here's a guy who thinks, well, I can improve on that. I can improve your lineup. And I wanted to throw the phone out the window, but, I kind of went back and forth, and he's like, well, you should read the article. I'm like, well, I can't read the article right now because I'm driving. But there's a lot of people on Twitter that put articles out there, and I look at the headline, and I'm like, well, that's totally wrong. Why would I read the article if I know you're wrong to begin with? Right?
Well, yeah,
if you're going to tell me that you
help give you any information.
Yeah, if you're going to tell me you have a better lineup than what Joe Madden has cooked up, I automatically don't believe you.
Right.
Unless your name is Bruce Bochy. Right? I mean, there are very few managers.
I don't know if there's right.
Well, I didn't have time for much, and I'm like, well, I don't know.
The bottom
Fowler
line
strikes out too much anyway to be a second place hitter, and he's like, well, no, that's why you want him at second. And then he takes a picture of some book where they're arguing that Jim Rice should be a leadoff hitter, and then I just started laughing. I almost drove off the road. I was like, I don't know where these guys are coming from, but
and I immediately looked at you like you were nuts, and you basically said that was the same response you had. Well, that Jim Rice should have been a leadoff hitter, and my first thought was that could be the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
There's I'm new to Twitter, right? I mean, I've had this account for years, but I only started using it like a few months ago, and I don't know, I've been blocked by a couple of people, but I'm usually pretty polite. And there are just people that are kind of out there. And the ones who are like arguing for sabermetrics, like this Nazi there's a saber Nazi on MLB Network every afternoon, who basically, he's got pro ball players in there saying, well, what would you do about clubhouse chemistry? And he's like, oh, nothing. I just throw some numbers at them. These guys don't have a basis in reality when it comes to actual baseball.
Right. There are still some people skills involved.
Well, yeah. Look, statistics are like a bikini. That's the old joke. That's what when you take Statistics 101, that's what they say, like in the first 10 seconds. Statistics are like a bikini. They show a lot, but they hide the essentials. Sabermetric people don't really believe that. They seem to think that, they can come up with these formulas that are predictive, like the Pacoda projections that had the Royals winning 79 games last year.
Right.
Which would have had them, like way under what they actually did. They won 90-something games and won the World Series. Okay?
Right.
So I don't know why you would even publish projections that historically are wrong, and yet they do it every year. And there's a segment of the baseball community that gets into the numbers, which is great. But you can't just be into the numbers and ignore the game and ignore the dynamics of a game. They're on Major League Baseball Network today saying the bunt is dead. All right? We had an extra inning game against Washington on Sunday. Ended up going 13 innings.
Yeah.
You got Jason Hayward in the 2-hole, 2 guys on base. He's in a slump, lays down a picture-perfect textbook bunt. If you want to teach anybody how to bunt, you show them a tape of him because fundamentally it was perfect. He lays it down. It's second
But I
and
would
third.
agree that the bunt is dead.
It's not totally dead. I mean, they don't bunt automatically the way they used to because they're more driven now where you don't want to make outs. But at the same time, if you've got a double play candidate.
I think it's different than that. It's more driven that everybody thinks they can hit the ball out of the ballpark and nobody's a bunter anymore.
Well,
you don't have your prototypical number 2 hitter being a bunter, and your 8-9 guys, for the most part, on a lot of teams, and especially like even the Cubs, when you're that loaded, they don't bunt. They're not going to – those guys, well, I'm not – except for the pitcher.
Well, they do sometimes.
Except for the pitcher. Take the pitcher out of the equation. I would totally agree. From within the last 10 years, the percentage of bunts, other than people trying to bunt for a hit, which that's down too.
Well, there aren't many guys like, especially with
that.
D. Gordon suspended. I mean, it's going to be really down. But the nuance here is that, 10 or 15 years ago, and I don't know if you have to go back even more, a guy on first, nobody out, you're automatically bunting him over. Now, you're more likely, if you've got a double play guy, you just send the runner. Right, and you beat the double play that way. That achieves the same thing. You got the guy on second with one out. Right, I mean,
think it's more. I think it's leaning more towards the fact that pitching is down, and there's more chances of runs being scored. You're not trying to win games.
Pitching is down.
You're trying not to win games 1-0 and 2-1. It doesn't happen that often.
Well, it depends on the situation.
Every team out there you think can hit. And
who's a lackey had a no-hitter going and somebody tried to bunt.
Teams don't bunt in the first inning
anymore. The automatic bunts, and we had this argument at the Cell years ago. First and second, nobody out used to be an automatic bunt situation unless it was like a 3-4-5 guy. Automatic. You almost never see it now.
Right.
But that's not to say that you shouldn't be doing it. The idea now, you don't want to give up outs. Nobody wants to give up out. Don't make an out. Don't make an out. Don't make an out. That's like the prevailing theory that only works up to a point. Didn't make an out on Sunday. Had 7 plate appearances. Didn't make an out, but his team didn't win. Okay? Contrast that with Jose Abreu, who's your guy. He's your RBI guy. He's up there to drive in a run, and he doesn't care what his OPS is. He doesn't care what his on-base percentage is. If he's willing to expand his strike zone and hit behind the runner and hit it to the right side or hit a sac fly, he'll do it to drive in the run because that's his job. His job is to drive in runs. Joey Votto, on the other hand, and now it looks like kind of Bryce Harper, they seem to think that their job is to get on base and then let the guy next to him handle it. Ryan Zimmerman left 14 guys on base.
I know.
That guy, and he faces the media, and he's like, well, I really like this. Do it again. And what does Ausmus do? He walked Harper yesterday.
Yeah.
And then Zimmerman fouled out.
Zimmerman
bases
left the
loaded.
bases loaded yesterday, too.
Yeah, that's what
after
I'm
they
talking
showed,
about.
On Monday. After they showed the stat that he was 1 for 15 with runners in scoring position in the whole series against the Cubs.
Yeah.
And then here he comes up with the bases loaded
and it's not going to be 1 for 15 very long because the play down the third baseline that went off Bryant's glove into the dugout was the one that Harper scored. And that they're going to make that an error. They just made an error today, that McCutchen play where he almost got decapitated by the little knuckling line drive by Rizzo. They just turned that into a hit.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they changed him.
Right. And, I'm glad they didn't fire the I'm not going to bother taking issue with official scorekeepers, but that was like really bad, really egregious. And there's been a couple of other ones that you just kind of shake your head and it's like, well, okay. Who cares? Did you win the game? Right. I mean, at some point you got to care about winning, right? And not about what's my OPS today, right? Bryant had a 1,000 OPS on Sunday, and the team didn't win. Okay, they pitched to him early in the game. They're throwing stuff on the edges and stuff, and he's not swinging at it, so they walk him. They don't care. They used to pitch to the Cubs that way. The Cubs take your walk, except. If you do that to the Cubs, we have other guys in the lineup that can drive them in. It doesn't seem like Washington's going to do it. And I think there was also something going on with Joe Madden and Dusty Baker. I think Madden, okay, I have nothing to really base this on. This is just looking at two guys, and I'm familiar with Dusty Baker. I have a feeling that Madden considers himself a far superior manager to Dusty Baker.
Okay.
You know, Dusty Baker is like, you listen to his press conferences even now, and it's like this old school, like, defense of everything, and just sit in the dugout, let the guys play, and then, 5 weeks later, oh, you know what? I'm going to switch this and this. Roll out the balls kind of coach is Dusty Baker. I mean, Madden and his Geek Squad, they look at the analytics, but the analytics don't drive what they do. They inform what they do. So you add the analytics to everything else and now you're making kind of a modern baseball decision. You can't be like the Red Sox saying we're going to dump all this stuff, and you can't be like the Saber Nazi on Major League Network saying, well, I don't care about anything else. All I care about are these numbers. Because it's men playing. It's human beings, right? Remember Soriano? Worst, he wanted to be a leadoff hitter. So when he batted leadoff, he did okay. I watched this guy as a cleanup hitter in 5 weeks drive in 1 run.
Right.
1 run in 5 weeks. It got so bad that when they, you come up to the plate and they put your numbers down below, they wouldn't even show them. I swear to God, anybody who follows the Cubs as madly as I do probably remembers this. He was the worst leadoff hitter I've ever seen.
Cleanup hitter.
Right. It wasn't that great of a leadoff hitter, but he I think he wanted Ricky Henderson's home run record or something. Hey, guy's making $136 million. He's got a smile on his face. I mean, whatever. That's all I want to say about the sabermetric thing. But when the team's 24-6, that's not the time to publish your article. I can solve your lineup. Why don't you put that one aside for when they lose 5 games in a row?
Well, right. No, I.
Is kind of what I'm
agree.
saying.
I mean,
if you want me to read it. Anyway, because I'm not going to take you seriously.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure you could make some sort of mathematical argument for having one guy bat in front of another guy, but
right. Well, I would like to see you make that.
Doesn't mean you're going to convince me.
Take the Nationals or the White Sox or any team that's in first place, and you're going to say, "Well, I can improve them." All right. First of all, you're improving their lineup, but if their pitchers aren't that good for a week, that might not necessarily help. And really, so I don't know what you're trying to say, that they're not reaching their full potential.
I to be honest, none of it. Just what I saw on Twitter made absolutely zero sense to me.
Yeah,
but I can't say I'm like old school because I didn't play pro ball, but I mean, I've been following baseball for 50 years. I mean, I like to think I know a little bit of something. Just listening to people like Steve Stone for, 3,000 hours. Mm-hmm. Maybe I picked up a little bit along the way, right? Doesn't make any sense to me. You got a lineup that's basically working. I mean, they tried to figure out where to best put Ben Zobrist. They put him in the 5-hole, finally, right? And this is about protection, right? Mm-hmm. Which apparently sabermetric people think is totally meaningless. There's no such thing as protection. Don't tell that to Bryce Harper.
Right.
Okay. So Ben Zobrist goes in the 5-hole.
Don't tell Devin Longoria.
Yeah, exactly. He got like 14 RBIs in a week. He was co-player of the week. It was like so much fun watching him hit dingers. But, the Twins were in town, right? Playing the White Sox. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, the one guy, especially when he's batting right-handed, that Zobrist reminds me of is Paul Molitor. Like a real simple, short to the ball, right-handed swing, not a lot of moving parts, not trying to knock it, in Stanton territory, but just trying to barrel it up and hit it hard.
Which is
wherever the pitch may be.
And Todd Frazier does a lot of the same thing. There's no uppercut. It's a straight barrel through the zone. Whether it's a high pitch or a low pitch or right down the middle, the barrel stays straight through the zone, and there's no extra added movement of your body and trying to pull it, clear your hips or anything. Sometimes you get beat on an inside fastball.
Yeah, well, you're going to get beat no matter what you do.
You can't get the
sometimes.
barrel, but I agree with you. Zobrist does it. Frazier does it. It's just short and quick, and all you're trying to do is hit the ball hard.
Well, that was the thing I loved about Schwarber. So quick to the ball. I miss him. We could take a break a little later. The other thing that came out of Twitter a couple of days ago, because we had a rain out, right? What do you do on Twitter when you're a Cub fan and there's a rain out, right? So I'm thinking, could the Cubs actually get Trout? Okay, so now we had the pre-show fist fight in traffic today. So let's reiterate that whole deal. You are one of the guys, like most people, I think.
I wouldn't trade him
under any circumstances.
Pretty much, yeah.
Because
he's the best player in baseball.
Right.
You don't trade the best player in baseball.
You can't win with him.
Right.
My argument is you can't win with this guy. Your best pitcher is now looking at Tommy John. You just lost your shortstop for 2 months. Your second best starter is on the shelf. There's another guy that's injured. I can't remember who. You couldn't get anybody in free agency.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Yeah, well, there's another guy outside of Simmons, but right? The free agent draft class coming up at the end of this year is crud. You didn't get anybody last year, and it was the biggest free agent class I can remember, right? So you got no way of getting free agents in the next actually 2 years, right? Your farm system is zero. I mean, emptied. So how do you improve the Angels in the long-term forecast of the Angels as a major league ball club? I see two choices. You can trot out Trout and Pujols and lose 70, 65, 75 games for the next 3 or 4 years, right? And then, as you're building up draft picks every year, slowly restock your farm system. It's going to take you like 4 years. And then Trout walks. You've got him till 2020. He walks at the end of this contract. There's no way he's going to sign with the A's when all they've done is surround him with crud and they lose the majority of their games. Because the Yankees will throw him $750 million or some insane lottery kind of money. So why would he stay in L.A.? So if you look at it from my perspective, where you can lose with him with 4 years or get a head start on rebuilding by trading him, it makes sense to at least listen to a trade. Now, I proposed one to you that you thought was crud, right? You like it's not enough. So I asked you this. I said, how many Todd Fraziers would it take to pry Mike Trout loose? And you said what?
7.
7? No, for one, no one has 7 Todd Fraziers.
Sure.
But for 2, why would it be 7? Why'd you come up with 7?
I don't know. Because
he's one player.
Only because
he only gets 4 at-bats a game. Right? 4 at-bats a game.
Because I think it's stupid to trade Trout. That's the only reason I said 7.
In an ideal world, you wouldn't trade him. But if you look at the state of your franchise, right?
But yes,
you got one really good asset.
I just don't agree with you that by getting 3 major league ready players that you're going to improve your ball club within the next 4 years anyway.
If Trout goes 2 for 4 and 3 other people go 2 for 4, you're better off. You just got 6 hits instead of 2.
You can get 4 hits in an inning and not score a run.
That's hard to do.
It
does. Well, not a lot. It does happen. I grant you that.
You know,
I'm just saying one player isn't going to win you too many ball games if the other 8 are crud. Right? If you have no pitching, I don't know how. Mike Trout cannot play center field.
I agree with that.
Then run behind,
That's
catch
fine,
the pitch,
but
throw the guy out at second, and then strike someone out.
I don't agree with your argument. That's that simple.
How do you not?
How do I not agree with your argument?
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry, you're not always freaking right.
Well, I pretty much am. But
okay, so you're right.
Let's say you're the no.
It doesn't matter. It absolutely doesn't matter.
There's nothing.
It doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't.
No,
it doesn't matter.
I want you to analyze this and say.
I'm not going to analyze this. I don't think they should trade him. Okay. I think they could build around him. It's the best player in baseball.
If you have nothing.
How are they going to build around 3 guys that aren't proven in baseball anyway?
At least they have 3 guys. Right now you have no farm system and no free agents for 2 years.
Okay.
So what are you going to build with?
What happened when the
Adobe
Marlins?
brick?
What happened when the Marlins traded Cabrera?
Well, okay. Now here's what they did. Here's what the Marlins blew up that team. What, twice?
Yeah.
They won the World Series, and then all of a sudden everybody went to the wind, and in return they got all these prospects.
And they are where?
Well, look, they won 2 World Series in 6 years. They blew up the first team, right? And that's how they ended up getting Cabrera. And then they won it again. That's an ownership thing down in Miami. New stadium. They're not making money. Fans don't come.
Which they'll make money with Trout, and the fans will come. So you have to look at that aspect too.
Okay, so you would rather lose with Trout for 4 years and then see him walk and get nothing, as opposed to trade him now when his value is at probably its highest and get some building blocks to keep yourself competitive where you could start to build for your future now. I mean, I don't think it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I mean, if you look at the Angels right now, I mean, they're decimated. they're in what I consider to be a winnable division until Texas brings up, some of their guys. The Texas farm system is like, they got some studs down there. If Joey Gallo figures it out, he's going to be a nightmare. And Houston started out, 8-20? Everybody's picked to win the division. They can't pitch. They can't catch. They can't hit. Looks like they're starting to get it together now. I mean, the division's ripe for the taking. Who's in first? Seattle.
But
right? Well, how do you win if you're the Angels?
Then go back to Houston. Here's a team with a bunch of talent that everybody picked them to win it, and they start out 8-20.
Well, they were in the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
They beat out the Angels last year.
Okay.
And how did they do it? They did it with prospects. You hate prospects. You hate
all
prospects.
Playing well this year, and all of a sudden they're at the bottom of the division.
Well, they played well last year. I mean, sometimes guys don't play good.
So
sometimes Mike Trout goes 0 for 4.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, you can't win 25 guys, 30 guys make up a baseball team. You look at the Cubs are 24-6. They're getting contributions from everybody.
Isn't going to help you. You need more. They need more.
How much? Okay.
They need a bunch of. They need.
If it's not going to help you, how's it going to hurt you? You're saying it's going to hurt you at the gate, right? If you trade Mike Trout, you'll have less fans coming. That's the only downside to trading Trout that I can see, because you're losing with him. If you can't win with the best guy in baseball, your team's a mess. So why aren't you trading him?
Because I think he's one of the 3 people in Major League Baseball that you can build a team around.
Well, you can, and yet you haven't been able to do it. Bad luck. The guy, the pitcher who got hit by the drunk driver, that was the start of it. They were on their way. The Angels were on their way. They were going to be great. And that was so sad. I felt so bad, and I kind of know, because I lived in Southern California for so long. I know kind of where that happened, and I was like, oh my God, seriously? That was so sad. But you look at, what happened to the Cubs in the 60s. They had a Rookie of the Year, second baseman, died in a plane crash in Kansas or something, right? It happened to the Celtics. I remember when Len Bias died, like 2 days after the draft. He was Karl Malone, only with better wheels. And Red Auerbach is like, look, this is a tragedy for the kid's family and everything, but you want to talk about how it affects the Celtics? This is going to hurt us for 10 years. That's how long Len Bias was going to play. He was going to take over for one of the core guys. And they brilliantly maneuvered themselves in a position to take this guy. And that was it. And then how long did it take the Celtics to get back? And then the other guy had the heart problem. Reggie, whatever. He dropped dead too. The shooting guard, skinny guy. It wasn't Reggie Lewis.
Oh.
But remember?
I do know who you're talking about.
What happened to the Cardinals?
Yeah.
The Cardinals lost their right fielder. He had a car crash in the Dominican, killed his girlfriend and himself, right? All of a sudden, they have to go get rid of Shelby Miller and bring in Jason Hayward because he was going to be their starting right fielder and he was going to be a cornerstone. I mean, these things happen.
This just in, Ryan Zimmerman left another guy on base.
I'll alert the media.
Actually, if you hit into a double play, you didn't really leave a guy on base, did you?
Well, it depends on, there's first and second.
But anyway.
But, yeah, where are we?
I get it, but I'm not into trading one of the top 3 players in baseball.
No matter what. See, now here's what I proposed. I said, and I hate this trade. I would hate to do this, but I would give you Jorge Soler, Kyle Schwarber, Heimer Candelario, and Dan Vogelbach, and I would give you like an arm that wasn't named Dylan Cease out of our farm system. You were talking about, well, you need to get a couple of AA guys. I would give you a list and say you can't have Gleyber Torres and you can't have Wilson Contreras, right? But, you're filling a third base, you're filling an outfield.
Well, the guy from MLB says Javier Baez, Schwarber, and Contreras.
See, this is why the guys at MLB should never go on the internet.
Soler.
There's absolutely no way that you would trade Javi Baez.
Okay.
In this deal.
You get Mike Trout. Why wouldn't you ask for everything?
You can ask for the moon. It just doesn't make any sense.
Okay, right.
For the Cubs, for the Cubs, the advantage to us, because we're losing a core guy. We're losing Schwarber as a core guy.
Oh, my God.
But we're giving you 2 quality minor leaguers who are blocked right now, so that's helping us because we have a glut of guys that are really good that aren't going to be able to come up.
That goes back to my argument, though. That's why you need 7 Todd Fraziers. You need to give me the world for Mike Trout.
Okay.
You're not giving me.
I don't know.
Bunch of guys
I don't know how realistic you are, but I don't think you want to trade him anyway. You're digging in your heels, and now you want Rhode Island and Connecticut.
I want Major League ready players, and you're not giving me Major League ready players except for 1.5.
Well, Schwarber wouldn't be able to play this year anyway.
Okay.
So your Major League ready players are Candelario, Soler, and
When's
Vogelbach.
Candelario or Vogelbach played in the majors?
Well, they haven't, but they're ready to go. The problem is
which means what?
Which means that we can't use them because we have a third baseman.
Which means they're not proven. Mike Trout's the most proven baseball player in the league right now, and you want to give me guys that might not, that could. How many Rookie of the Years how many players have won Rookie of the Year and then you've never heard from them again?
Quite a few.
Yeah.
Chris Coughlin.
Well, I mean.
Mike Harkey. There's another
guy.
guy.
For the Cubs that hit 3 home runs on opening day and then.
Tuffy Rhodes.
Yeah.
He made it big in Japan.
Oh, great for him.
Well,
that
he did.
That help the Angels. So, yeah, okay, great. We could get you. You could have one good year for us and then make it big in Japan. That's
all you're basically saying is that your team is so hopeless that there's no way to improve them. Well, you can't give me prospects. I need Major League proven players. Well,
for the best Major League proven player in the league, I want 4 guys that are going to start on opening
4 guys.
Day.
What team is going to give you 4 guys for 1? How does that help the other team? A good trade helps both organizations.
So you're
basically saying I want Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, and Bill Dickey.
Here I go with the fact that you're always right. So this guy from Major League Baseball that says Javier Baez, Schwarber, and either Soler or Wilson Contreras doesn't make any sense for your team, so you wouldn't do it.
No, it doesn't.
Okay,
and we wouldn't do it. But he doesn't know know the Cubs organization at all.
Okay.
Well, I saw that thing.
That's what I want.
This is a guy who's like off the top of his head. Let me think about the Cubs guys I've actually heard of.
He listed 4 other teams too with the same amount
right.
of
Well, he's got 5. You got the Red Sox.
Yes.
Mookie Betts and some other stupid thing. I mean,
he doesn't trade Mookie Betts.
Well, I don't know. I skimmed over it because I thought he was a knucklehead.
Okay, of course you thought so because you're looking for the best possible scenario.
I'm looking for a scenario
team.
that makes sense for both teams.
Okay.
Okay.
But the only scenario is that the Angels have to get a lot of players.
Yes.
Okay.
They have to get a lot of value, and they have to get a lot of players. Right. That's absolutely true.
Okay, but if you don't give me 3 Major League ready players like a Contreras, a Baez, and a Schwarber, but then you want to add AA guys and AAA guys, then you have to make it like 6 or 7 guys.
Well, we're giving you some major leaguers.
Oh, 1.5.
Who's the half?
Schwarber.
Schwarber's a half a player.
Well, he can't play this year.
That's true.
And who knows if he's going to
come back. You're not going anywhere
injury.
this year anyway.
So,
you're rebuild. The only reason that you would trade Trout is to start your rebuilding now as opposed to have it done in 4 years when he's ready to bail.
I don't want 3 guys from AA that might make the major leagues and might contribute.
Okay. I wasn't talking about AA guys. I was talking about guys ready to play in the majors right now that the only reason that they're not in the majors is because we have a guy named Brian and a guy named Rizzo.
Yes.
Okay?
Right.
These guys are major league ready. I've watched them play.
Okay.
They're there.
Great.
They're ready.
But
you can't have Contreras.
They're 300 hitters that are going to drive in 90 runs.
We'll see. I mean, they're prospects. You can't
this.
guarantee.
Right. So why would you trade them for a Mike Trout?
Some prospects are have a pretty good pedigree, and everybody kind of agrees they're going to be successful. I mean, not everybody's like going to stink. It's not pro football. When the Cubs draft a lot of college guys, they have a track record. You can see what they do, right? Are you ready for Bryant to hit 200? He's Rookie of the Year. How many Rookie of the Years stink is your argument? I think Chris Bryant's going to stick. I think he's pretty good.
Well, right. You're not trading Chris Bryant for Mike Trout.
No.
Okay.
No. Well, we're going to trade you a guy that can be the next.
But you're not trading a guy with the pedigree of Chris Bryant.
Well, not that pedigree because he didn't get drafted that high, but he's proven at every level that he can play. So what more do you want? You don't get guarantees. You can't guarantee that Trout's not going to step in a sinkhole like Mickey Mantle and tear up his knee. Because he is Mickey Mantle, let's face it. Mike Trout is Mickey Mantle. Mike Trout is like Hall of Fame guy.
Probably without the drinking problem.
Yeah, let's hope. He looks like a milk drinker. Mike Trout. He really does.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, you're talking about a Hall of Famer. You should get a lot for him. But from the Cubs' perspective, there were certain guys that were willing to give up, and certain guys were not. Contreras is not on the list, and Baez is not on the list.
I'm sorry.
This guy doesn't understand the organization.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to tell
right,
you.
I know.
Look, these national guys.
Because
the guys,
everybody's an idiot except for you.
No, I'm not saying everybody's an idiot. What I'm saying is
You are. You're saying nobody understands
no,
everything, and
nah,
you've got
no.
the perfect 5 guys or 4 guys to give to Trout, and everybody would be happy, and you just know that it would
what
work
I'm telling
out for the
well,
Angels.
what I tell you is like the national guys, like a guy like Chris Russo or the guy who wrote this, they don't know the Cubs very well. They have to follow 30 teams and split their time up, and so they just kind of look at the headlines of the guy next to him, or they ask Buster Olney, hey, Buster, what do you think? Well, Buster's got to cover 30 teams too, so he doesn't know them very well either. So eventually, all these guys end up with this mismatch of thinking, and they're like, well, this guy's pretty good. Yeah, you should throw him in.
I'm pretty sure all these guys in Major League Baseball have no idea what kind of talent's in the minor league system. I'm pretty
as
sure.
far as being
I'm pretty sure
the
you're
Cubs
right about
minor league system.
I'm pretty sure you're right about that. They have no idea whatsoever. They have no idea who the top 100
the
minor league
local
baseball
guys,
players are.
the local guys know. The guys who cover the Cubs, the beat writers, they know who's in Iowa.
Right. I'm sure you're right.
Okay. And then the other thing is, in order to
they have a list of the top 100 minor leaguers, the top 800 minor leaguers. They know which every Major League Baseball player in the minor league.
The guy who wrote this, guarantee you he doesn't.
Okay.
Guarantee you he doesn't. He doesn't major in minor leagues. This guy, he doesn't.
No,
I guarantee you.
All right.
Guarantee you he doesn't. And insofar as that, you know how far up Wilson Contreras moved on that list in like less than a year? He wasn't even in the top 30 last year. Now he's like 6. I mean, those things fluctuate. Depends on what's going on. To follow the minor leagues is like the biggest pain you can imagine. You know how many guys are in that system? You got 40 guys on the pro roster. The beat writers can barely keep up with the 30 guys that are going to be on the team this year. And you want them to keep up with the other 122? It can't be done. That's why I'm saying, like, the national writers who write about the Cubs have a very small idea of what's really going on. That's why I don't listen to them.
Okay.
I have to go dig around on my own. That's why I think they're lame. That's why I like Major League Network, and I barely watch ESPN anymore. They can't cover everything. You got the biggest baseball weekend in Chicago. You got This
is the Major League. This is MLB.com.
Yeah. Yeah, is it Phil Rogers?
Well, I don't know who wrote the article. I didn't look.
I've seen Phil Rogers stuff. Are we done with the Trout thing? The other thing I just want to say one thing on this trade thing.
It's Jim Duquette from MLB.com.
Oh, right, okay. The thing, I'm not going to say anything bad about Jim Duquette. The thing that I want you to understand, though, is like if you're the GM and I'm the GM, in order for us to make a trade, it's got to benefit both organizations.
You're benefiting by getting Mark Trout.
Yes.
So you have to give up a lot.
Yeah. As far as which names,
I don't want some guys at AA that you say are Major League ready.
Heimer Candelario's in AAA, and you don't know the first thing about him. Just admit that.
I will admit
Okay,
that.
so do you know Wilson Contreras?
Yes.
Okay. What do you know about him?
He's ranked the #1 catcher in the minor leagues.
Yeah. That's all you know.
And he's good.
Do you see him play?
A little bit in spring training.
What'd you think?
I think he could play in the major leagues.
He's untouchable. Because Miguel Montero
Trout's
is old
untouchable
and
too,
Ross is
till you get to untouchable players. You give me untouchable players for my untouchable player.
I've got lots of other players.
You don't want to give up untouchable players. You want to give guys that you say are Major League ready that are touchable. I want untouchable players.
I'll give you the
untouchable player.
I will give you the untouchable ones that are blocked. Like a third baseman. Who's playing third for the Angels? You don't need a third baseman. You don't need a center fielder. You don't need a left fielder. You got nobody. You got an empty team. Right? All you have is Pujols. I can give you a first baseman, a third baseman, a left fielder, and a center fielder. That's half your starting lineup.
Hold on. You can also give them to 8 other major league teams.
Well, eventually we will. Eventually we'll go and get Tyson Ross.
Good.
Fine.
And then you
could sit in L.A. and lose. And you could be Mike Trout and no longer get MVP votes because now you're Andre Dawson and your team's in last. He walks, and you get nothing for him at the end of his contract.
I'd still be asking, if you're getting an untouchable player, I want untouchable players back.
Yeah, well,
and you're like, well, Javier
if you-
Baez is
well,
stupid, and I'm not giving
no,
you
I wouldn't give up
Contreras,
Javi. I wouldn't give
and
up
I'm not
Javi.
giving you this guy, but I'll give you Schwarber, who might not play, who won't play the rest of the year, and I'll give you Soler, who doesn't even start for the team and only hits 260, but he's got some power, and I'll give you a couple guys in AA or AAA that look good, and I'm pretty sure since I've watched them, they can play in the major leagues. Great. That's a perfect trade for you.
Well, I also threw in an arm.
Yeah, great. That's
Any
a
arm that's
perfect
not
trade
named
for you.
Dylan Cease.
Of course it makes sense to you. Doesn't make sense to
I'm
the
still
rest
helping you.
No, you're not.
Okay, fine. Let's just move on.
You are not.
There's no way to convince you of any of this stuff. So let's just move on.
All right. There's no way to convince you either. So what's the difference?
Well, the difference is you didn't want to make a trade to begin
The difference
with.
is you're right, and I can't convince you that you're wrong, and you're trying to convince me that I'm wrong. So what's the difference?
It's not that you're wrong. It's that you don't want to trade the guy anyway. So I'm trying to show you why you should want to trade him.
Okay,
If you still don't want to trade him, then don't trade him.
I want untouchable players.
Yeah, well, there are a few that I threw in there. Just not Baez and not Contreras.
Right. Well, then I would make the trade with you. I'd go to the Dodgers and get their number one pitching prospect and a bunch of other guys.
Well, you should. But you're never going to get Urias out of the Dodgers. They traded Pedro Martinez once. That's it. They're done. They're never trading another guy like that.
Well, then, I mean, it's like if you want Mike Trout, you're giving me Urias.
Hey, look, here's your options. Every year you get less and less for the guy because he's that much closer to walking. So if you want to rebuild your team and take your one big asset and turn it into many assets, this is your chance. And if you don't do it now, you're going to get less for him next year. And if you do it in 2 years, you're going to get even less. And if you wait till his walk year, you're going to get nothing. So it's up to you. I mean, the clock is ticking. Unlucky, but you guys stink now because all your guys are hurt.
Right.
And you have I see no hope for the Angels this year. And I don't see how you rebuild when there's no free agents and you got no farm system. That's all. That's why there's all this talk about trading Trout to begin with, is because your organization is jammed up big time.
Sure.
Okay. Well, we can help you with that.
You can help.
All right, let's take a
Only
break.
giving the guys
All
that
right.
you want to give up.
Let's give the listeners a break. We will come back and talk about something else baseball related in about a minute. You're listening to the Back Row Boys, and we'll be right back as soon as I can. I don't have my glasses on.
They're on your shirt.
Be right back. All right, we're back for the second part of the Back Row Boys. What is it, May 10th?
Yes, still.
I wonder if the Cubs are going to get their game in. It looked like there was rain coming at 8:30. They have to squeeze it in.
Yeah.
San Diego doesn't come back to Chicago, so they're going to make every effort, I'm sure. Taking one for the team. I was kind of hoping it got rained out so I could go see the makeup game. By the way, Cubs fans, they did, you'll have to look on the website, they did, they're playing a doubleheader tomorrow to make up for Monday, and then they also announced makeup dates for Milwaukee on August 16th and Atlanta on, check me on this, I think it's July 7th. So go to the ChicagoCubs.com and if you got tickets,
I got to work last night
out.
walking from the train.
Yeah.
Soaked.
It was come down pretty hard, man.
So this is it. You know, the Cubs game's supposed to start at 7. This is 7:30. I walked in. I looked at people. I said, geez, I have no idea why they canceled the Cubs game.
Well, you know, it was funny because
boring.
we were waiting around, and 15 minutes, maybe 18 minutes to walk to the park and to get in the gate. And so on a day like this, it works out perfect because we just wait, right? And, 5 minutes before the game, we'll head over there, and then, if we miss a first pitch, no big deal. But I don't want to be stuck at the park for 4 hours on a rain delay. And it looked like they were gonna, kind of wait around. But it's really hard to find out what's going on until they actually announce it. I mean, I don't even know where to look. Like, I tend to get news faster on Twitter than I do on like anybody's website because there's so many people to follow. Somebody eventually gets it quick. Raul Mondesi got suspended today. You hear about that?
Yeah, I just saw the blurb.
For you new listeners,
but then I was curious why it was only 50 games?
50 games,
instead of
yeah.
the 80.
For you new listeners, our pods are on thebackrowboys.com, and they're also on iTunes and Stitcher.com if you want to check out. We talked about PEDs last week. The deal with this one was he took over-the-counter medication, and Major League Baseball and the union both agreed it was an innocent mistake, and so they reduced it from 80 to 50, and there is apparently a codicil or some language somewhere in the agreement that says if you can prove it's an honest mistake, we'll give you a break. So he would qualify to play in the playoffs. Doesn't look like Kansas City's going to make it these days, but you never know.
Right.
They get plenty of time to get it together. It's only the second week of May. So that was the deal with that.
And if everybody believes that the White Sox aren't going to keep up this type of baseball, then they have a chance.
Well, we talked last week about the sustainability.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, I've heard so many people talking about sustainability since. So we do have we're think-fluencing, man. We got people listening to our pods. I didn't check the numbers. It was like 4,000 last week, something like that. Okay, so I want to talk about Beanballs because we both had an incident.
Right.
You had a good week since our last podcast.
Not bad. Yeah.
You swept.
Minnesota, but
dropped 2 out of 3
to Boston.
Dropped 2 out of 3 to Boston.
Finally had a day off
after winning the opener.
Correct.
Okay, dropped 2 in a row, which the Cubs haven't done yet this year. Haven't dropped 2 in a row.
Only team.
Yeah. You won the opener, dropped 2 in a row to Boston, then came in and swept Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the Cubs went to Pittsburgh, swept them, then came back to play 4 against the Nationals and got all 4 of those. So the Cubs had a good week as well. But something happened. You want to let's do the Cubs first. There was a little beanball issue
in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and it had nothing to do with the wild card game. There were people that were trying to connect it to the wild card game because it was the same 2 teams, which is, typical mainstream media logic. Hey, look.
Yeah, I didn't see it that way.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I talked to other people that
we disagreed, though.
Everybody thought it was it's Pittsburgh because I don't exactly remember what happened, but
I can recap what happened.
You guys hit Marte.
Garrett Cole was throwing inside to everybody, especially Addison Russell and Chris Bryant, and he was throwing inside well off the plate. Now, old school, you're allowed to do that. Old school, you don't dive over the plate. The outside belongs to me. The inside belongs to you. I mean, that's kind of how it's always been. But not only did he throw inside to Addison Russell, but 2 pitches later, he drilled him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fine. Now, Marte gets hit in the hand, and I'm totally fine with it. I'm like, okay, you want to pitch inside? We can pitch inside too. It's no big deal. It's pretty easy when you pitch inside and you're a right-hander to a right-hander. It's pretty easy to just run one in on the guy. And let me tell you, for when you're in the batter's box and you're looking at a pitch that you think is kind of middle, maybe a little bit outside of middle, and all of a sudden it runs in on you, you can't do anything but cringe. You can't get out of the way of that thing. You could bring your hands in, and you could kind of twist your body one way or another, but if that thing's coming for you, you're going to get hit. If it's coming for your head, you can duck, but if it's coming for your body, you're going to get hit. And the thing to do is you don't want to get hit in certain places, right? You don't want to get hit in the wrist, and you don't want to get hit in the elbow, and you don't want to get hit in the fingers, right? Those are the things, or your face, but you know what I'm saying?
Of course. Right.
So he drilled Russell, and I don't remember there being any issue because from the wild card game with Russell. So, okay, fine. You threw inside to Bryant. Now you're throwing inside to Russell. So now Marte gets hit. Now, your take on Marte getting hit was that it wasn't retaliation for.
Well, the Pirates.
And then what happened after that is then the Pirates plunked Ben Zobrist on the wallet, hit him right in the ass, which I thought was like the stupidest thing to do. But your take on it.
Now, my take on it is I do think that was intentional.
Hitting Zobrist. Well,
but yeah, I don't think it was what everybody made it out to be of the Cubs Pirates from the playoff series, which was only one game.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with it.
It was my take on it was Marte the game before whoever they played got hit on the wrist in basically the same spot that the Cubs hit him. Almost at least twice, and I don't know if it was in successive at bats the day before.
Yeah.
So this was Sunday day baseball, and then the Cubs were playing Pittsburgh on Monday night. So now it's the third time that Marte's got hit on the wrist, and my take on it is that in Major League Baseball, you keep hitting my guy, it doesn't matter what team it is, eventually they have enough of it, and they plunk your guy. And what happens is it's like quit throwing at my guys.
Well,
and it happens, and Marte got hit again, and whoever said something about it, whether they took it upon themselves or whether it was management or whatever, they said we're not going to have Marte keep getting hit, and you're going to show that we're not going to accept that anymore.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I don't know what good it does to have a guy like Blobstein throw a breaking ball at 80 miles an hour and hit somebody in the butt. What message are you really sending? That I'm unwilling to really hit a guy? Like the pitcher didn't buy into it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's very possible. If it came from management and the pitcher doesn't really buy into it, he just put him in the behind.
And then
which is where it's different with the White Sox in Minnesota.
Well, yeah, now recap what happened with Minnesota.
Well, in the Minnesota game, and the Sox were up big later innings, and one of the relievers threw a high and tight pitch to their the Chinese guy, Park.
Korean,
I'm sorry.
Yeah. The big, like the heavy-set slugger dude.
Right.
Yeah.
And he had to do some acrobatic thing to get out of the way, and it barely grazed him, but it was high and tight, shoulder, head area. The next inning, the guy didn't just hit Abreu in the wallet. He threw it right at his rib cage.
Yeah, he drilled him.
And he drilled him.
Yeah, he drilled him.
And so this time the pitcher bought into it and really just chucked it right at his rib cage. And I thought it was totally intentional. I didn't have the volume on, so I couldn't hear anybody's thought process on it. Ventura came out to argue. I don't know if he was arguing that there should have been a warning after the Park thing, or if there should have been a warning, why the pitcher wasn't kicked out because it was blatant. Because the umpires do have the right, even with no warnings, to make the decision that they thought it was a blatant pitch, and they could kick the pitcher out even without warnings. So,
well, you could. I mean,
I don't know if that's what he was arguing, but nothing came about it. The bench is cleared. Very minor.
They didn't even warn. They didn't even warn the benches.
They must not have, because the very next inning, Scott Carroll came in and hit somebody with a curveball that wasn't by any means intentional. But normally, when there's warnings, you hit a guy, you're out.
I mean, if you're trying to send a message, and I had this kind of argument with this guy in the stands. If you're what message are you sending when we hit a guy in the butt with a curveball?
Right.
What message are you really sending?
What I actually do agree with you on is there was no message on Zobrist getting plunked in the wallet. But there was a message sent with Abreu getting one in the rib cage.
Yeah,
and so, but I don't know. Is it as simple as the pitcher didn't buy into it for Pittsburgh, and in Minnesota he did, or is it, I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm
I
not
mean,
exactly sure.
Zobrist is like a Boy Scout. I mean, of all the guys to hit, I don't know why you would hit him. You know what I mean? But the Cubs are kind of like that. We don't have Bryce Harper types on our team, I don't think. Our guys are they're, even with the umps this year, although Fowler got thrown out for apparently just asking the guy, where exactly is your strike zone? Which seems a little hypersensitive, as far as the umpire goes.
Right.
But he flipped his bat on the strikeout, and, it's one of these things where
it depends on where the bat went. Did it go towards
No,
the
it
umpire?
just kind of almost like he just flipped it into he was batting left-handed. It went to the right-hander's batter's box, and then he kind of threw his helmet down. Well, okay. So the bat boy's got a little longer to walk. I mean, it's not that big a deal. He didn't exactly show him up, but I think he expressed his displeasure with the call. The thing with and we've talked about this on other podcasts about, how to, do it, use technology. You get a little Bluetooth thing for the umpire's ear, and it buzzes when it's a strike, according to the technology you have. Pretty simple. Do that for a year, and then, let them wait for the buzz and call a strike, and then just be umpires. And then if there's a glitch and something goes down, then, you got a guy there calling balls and strikes until it comes back up again. I mean, it's like, it's not rocket science. You could do this anytime you wanted. This idea of having a fifth umpire in the booth to do immediate reviews on everything like college football, I don't know if I buy into that. I mean, at some point, the games, we had some long reviews this week.
I buy into that for that aspect. I think there's some times where they should know the whole if they say they want to get every call right,
which I assume is what they want to do.
But then to give each team one review, and then if you don't get it, then you actually have to ask them, and they have to decide that if they want to review it. I mean, really, that at that point, to me, it's like they should have some guy in the booth reviewing every plays, like college football, and saying, okay, we want to get every play right, so we're going to review that. Now, none of them should take 3 minutes.
Well, the closer the play, it seems like the more they have to look at it.
Right.
And once it goes to review, they better make every effort to make the right call. There's nothing worse than a 4-minute review where you get it wrong.
Right.
Right. And I believe that, if you listen to New York, I mean, it has happened a couple of times where they just totally, missed it anyway. And I'm not just talking about the slide rule and, what was this and what was that. I mean, actually missing the call.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there were a couple of long reviews.
They've got the slide rule wrong, and that's cut and dry.
Well,
supposedly. But
rules that leave interpretation are a problem, right? I thought the slide rule was pretty self-explanatory, right? Reaching out with your arm to trip a guy when you're on the bag, kind of legal based on my interpretation of what the actual text of the rule is.
Mm-hmm.
I just think you're going to end up hurting your wrist more than the guy's got his weight on that leg. What are you going to sweep him?
No, but
sweep the leg. I mean, I don't think it's going to work.
This actually happened in the White Sox game, but the interpretation is you can't slide past the bag. So
Machado, you're out if you do.
Machado did that, and he grabs Lowry's ankle. Okay, now if his body was into the bag and stopped at the bag, but his whole body went past the bag, and then he's got to literally turn around onto his stomach and reach back to touch the bag. That means you slid past the bag, and you can't do that. You have to slide.
You're out
early enough to be able to stay on the bag.
You slide past the bag, you're out.
Right,
and that's a pretty easy call.
And I figure, like that, it's like, how do you screw that up? But they did.
Yeah. Wow.
So I agree with you. I don't understand if you go to review how you can not look at the rules and go, okay, that's. Cutting. The only possible one is, the ball has to hit the back of the mitt, and you're looking at, high definition, and it's got to be. I mean, those things I can see can still go either way, to an extent, but most of the time they seem to get those right.
Well, the beanball thing. I mean, the Washington had a guy that I think we hit 3 times in 2 games, but. He's standing all over the plate. He's hitting 188, and you're not really in a position to hit. There's no reason to hit him. It's just that, the pitchers get a little wild. I don't think Washington had any problem with that, although they ended up hitting Hendricks. Hendricks is like fastball's 86.
Right.
I think, if you're a Major League Baseball player and you get hit with an 86-mile-an-hour pitch, you shrug it off. Espinosa's all over the plate. I mean, it's kind of like, how do you not hit him? And Starling Marte gets hit more than anybody in the league. And he's leading the league in hit by pitches. He hangs all over the plate. Guys that dive over the plate trying to get to outside pitches are going to get hit.
True.
If you don't pitch inside of those guys, you're going to get drilled.
Right. I do agree with that.
Especially, right-hander to right-hander, if you can't throw the, low and away breaking stuff to a right-handed hitter and he's going to dive over the plate like Toronto does and take it to right field,
right.
You're not going to get anybody out.
With a bunch of body armor on.
Yeah. Outlaw the body armor, maybe. I don't know. I wish Rizzo would wear some.
Yeah.
He doesn't do it, and just on your elbow, dude. And then the gloves they make, with the little wrist protection or something. I mean, of all the guys the Cubs have, they don't really have a backup first baseman.
Right.
That's why he played 160 games last year. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back for more. You're listening to the Back Row Boys talking some baseball, and we'll be back in a minute. Okay, back for the second half of the Back Row Boys. We were talking during the break about Washington, and I was telling you this Washington team that the Cubs just swept. The Cub fans are obviously giddy, and they should be. Taking 4 in a row off of anybody isn't easy. Taking them off a winning first place team is infinitely harder. This Washington team, though, Cub fans may remember we swept the Mets last year. But it was a much different team that we saw in the playoffs. The Mets, after we swept them, eventually drove them to getting Cespedes and stuff like that. This Washington team has a shortstop in the minors that they'll probably bring up. They have Lucas Giolito, who's like 100-mile-an-hour flame-throwing starter, probably just waiting for somebody to, go on the DL or something like that. This Washington team has pieces to make moves too. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're a much different looking team the next time we see them, or at least, if we see them in the playoffs. We talked last week that the White Sox had to add on a bat. We talked about Ryan Braun. We talked about Lucroy, which I thought might be better for you, and also Markakis.
Yeah.
Left-handed hitting outfielder. consensus, on Twitter, at least from the Sox fans I talked to, were, Markakis for sure.
Yeah,
I don't know what it would take.
I've always liked Markakis. He's obviously getting closer towards the end of his career. But he's still a great player.
I think, to rescue a guy from a rebuilding situation like they have in Atlanta and they bring him into Chicago to a first-place team, I bet you the guy just goes ape. Hits 330. Although you were telling me, his last 7 games, Avisail Garcia's hitting 500.
Yeah.
3 extra base hits.
Yeah. He came back from a hamstring injury, and I don't know if the light switch kicked on or if he's I haven't seen every single at bat, so I don't know if he stopped swinging at the ball that's 2 feet outside.
You did get to play the Twins too,
right?
I mean, they're not beating too many people.
Well, they also played Boston there, and yesterday against Texas, he just literally hammered them. I mean, he's just hitting line drives all over the park. It's not like I don't know. Maybe if they finally told him quit trying to hit the ball out of the ballpark
and just try to hit it hard,
hit it hard, and that's what he's doing because he's only got like 1 home run and 2 doubles, but I mean he's hit 9 out of 18 in his last 5 games, and but it just seems like even his outs are hard, which is always good. So, and that's what since we talked about it from the beginning of the year, from when the White Sox traded for him till now, it's been a bust. But they have hope for him, and they still see the talent. Even though we don't.
Well, you see the talent. You just see him.
Not the production.
You don't see. Well, I mean, he's got the production. He's got the arm for right field.
Yeah.
Right. His wheels are okay. I mean, the pitch recognition. Swinging at stuff that you couldn't hit with a boat oar.
Maybe if he's always figured out the fact that he's not going to play right field because Eaton is playing an all-star caliber right field. So maybe he's just relaxed a little bit and said, okay, I'm resigned to the fact that I'm a designated hitter.
All I have to do is hit.
That's it.
Okay.
Maybe he's finally figured that out.
Simple is better.
And he's happy with that, and they got it through his head. I don't know, but yeah, he's so now. I mean, now you're talking. How do you go for a Markakis? If Garcia's going to hit, but by the time the trade deadline is, we'll have a better sample size.
Yeah, well, you'll have a better sample size, but also, you're looking at your 25th, 24th, 23rd guy. If you can add a guy like Markakis,
right?
And what's it going to cost you? I mean, I don't know what Atlanta wants. They got so much for Shelby Miller. Maybe they want, Carson Fulmer. I don't know. You can't give up that. He's untouchable. Can't trade him. I still think that, he's a couple of weeks away. They ought to be bringing him up. We'll see what your 5 starter does.
They might. I mean, Gonzalez pitched well yesterday, but he pitched so awful the first time.
Were you shocked by that?
No, not really. When they brought him up, I mean, he's the type of guy that just watching that he's gonna throw out a good game every now and then because he has a lot of movement on his pitches. So if you could get these guys to hit the contact and hit it to the players, then I think he could get you a win every now and then. But no, is he? I mean, he's like a prototypical number 5. He's at best a 500 pitcher.
Well, so when he has his good stuff, he can win. When he has his bad stuff, he can barely make it to the 5th inning.
Right.
No. So he's replacement level.
Yeah.
I mean,
sure.
You'll get more out of Carson Fulmer.
Right.
I mean, so if he's a placeholder, he gave you a good game the other night.
Right.
I mean, it took you 13 innings or something, but let me ask you this. I'm not a big fan of Kenny Williams, but he came out, and I don't know what prompted it, but he said something like, look, the White Sox have 25 guys that come out every night to beat you. Okay, great. There's been a lot of talk about the team chemistry being really good and stuff like that. And I'm starting to wonder, how bad was the chemistry last year? And is it all like the Adam LaRoche thing was way worse than people? Nobody wants to say it out loud maybe, but maybe it was so uncomfortable in that clubhouse that it was just kind of absurd.
I always wonder about this from all aspects of teams in all sports. It's like 1 year you have this team. The next year you have almost the exact same team. And people say, well, the clubhouse is so much better. Well, what changed? And a lot of it has to do, they say it when they're winning. They don't say it. Every spring training team say, "Oh yeah, everybody's confident, everybody's happy to be here." This and that. And White Sox said it even the last 2 years when they stunk, and then this year it's like, "Oh, it's a completely different atmosphere at spring training." And I'm like, "Okay, last year you were happy about spring training and the atmosphere." So yeah, I don't know. That's the only thing that makes sense. Why all of a sudden? I mean, okay, you add a fire stick like Lowry who brings a lot. You
did bring in some veteran ball players,
guy like Frazier, but really, I mean, who did they change?
Yeah,
you still have the Abreu's and the Cabreras and Melky Cabrera.
Well, you brought in Vila,
and you still have Adam Eaton. Does that mean you pin it on Tyler Flowers because he's not there anymore? I mean, really?
Yeah,
it just doesn't seem right.
It was just the way the statement came out, almost unsolicited. And maybe it was, Kenny Williams' way of defending himself in the whole Roche matter, saying, "Look, we're a united team now, and we're all 25 guys committed to winning." I mean, you need that, and the team's been successful. You're 20-something and 10, or
yeah.
way beyond
21 and
way
10.
beyond your extent, your expectations.
Well, exactly, but if they had these same group of guys and they were 15 and 15, still right in the mix, which is what I had said I had hoped for by the end of May to begin with, just to be 500. Would they be saying the same things? When all of a sudden you last year you win one game after the 7th inning when you're down, when you're losing going into the 8th inning, and this year you've won multiple games.
You've scored more runs from the 7th inning on than you have from the 1st to the 7th inning, if I read that correctly. Yeah.
So is that a change in culture, or is that just the fact that you got?
Are you just beating up bad bullpens? I mean, it's hard for me to tell. This is the thing about baseball. That's if you don't see the game, and you really don't see the pitches, and all you're doing is going by the box scores and stuff like that, how can you tell if the hitting was good and the pitching was bad, or if the good hitting beat the good pitching, or if the good pitching beat the good hitting, or if the pitching beat slumping hitting? You know what I mean?
Right.
So when you're trying to assess, how you're doing, I mean, the one guy you're worried about in your lineup is hitting 500.
I mean, take Boston last year. Okay, they have basically the same team.
They added David Price. They added Kimbrel.
Okay,
but position player-wise?
Players. All right, well, guess what? Pedroia is reverting back to his old self.
Well, he was hurt last year.
Yeah. So, but have they had a change in the clubhouse? Or, is it just that they...
Well, guys are a year older.
Right.
When you have young ball players, of course you would like to see them all improve and whatnot, and they don't always do, sophomore slumps and stuff. But, if you look at good players, in their second year, now that they've got their feet wet, now that they understand the umpires and they understand the pitching, you can expect them to improve. We expect that out of the second-year Cub guys. Addison Russell just doubled in a run after Baez got on with a bunt, and Zober singled to start the inning, so the Cubs scored. It's what was I saying? I totally recap myself out of a conversation.
We were talking about the culture of the ball club and then expecting people to improve.
Right.
But,
I look at it this way. In the timeline of a player's career, we were talking about, why is Freddie Lynn not in the Hall of Fame, but Jim Rice is, and you're looking at this 17-year career, and Freddie Lynn was MVP, Rookie of the Year in 75, and, he had injuries, and he changed teams, la-di-da-di-da. You can expect if a player is going to end up to be a really good player, you should see improvement in the second year. Right? So Addison Russell is one of those guys, his numbers aren't really better this year, but if you watch him play, he's better. And he's more comfortable at the plate. And, who knows? When you're hitting back in the lineup and there's no one behind you, like David Ross, you're mocking David Ross, earlier in the year because, he stinks, he can't hit, la-di-da-di-da. He's picked off like a runner every other game, and he's actually hit probably one of the most impressive home runs up until the one that Brian hit the other day. I don't know if you saw it.
I didn't see his.
Look, dude, it was so windy. And there were 3.5 clubs of wind, minimum. and he put one, halfway up in the bleachers. That was impressive. By the way, did you see the home run that was disputed, flag, pole, that Rizzo hit?
I didn't.
I will tell our listeners. I will give this to our listeners right now.
Without any volume on the TV, I kind of saw it on the replay, but yeah.
Right. From where I sit in the ballpark, I could see the inside half of the foul pole, and the flags were blowing toward home plate. So I actually saw the ball hit the flag and then glance off the side of the pole. I had a better view than the cameras they were using and stuff like that, and I wonder. Jill was kind of poo-pooing this idea, but I wonder if they're going to if Major League Baseball will make the Cubs change those flags to something like a dark blue background with white lettering because you can't see.
Mm-hmm.
The ball disappears in the flag. I mean, I've never seen that happen before.
No,
I mean,
what are the chances?
A lot. Well, not very good, but most of the foul poles are kind of bigger, but they don't fly flags. But it was all the way at the top.
Yeah, I've never seen flags on a foul pole before.
Yeah, well, that foul pole is really high.
Yeah,
you have any idea how far he hit that ball? Oh my gosh! Oh, 2 out. Oh, Lester's up. We always root for Lester to hit. It's kind of a weird thing we have. He's got a bet going with Lackey about who gets more hits, and we're rooting for John. Lester, that is. What else do we have baseball-wise? We cover everything?
Speaking of homers, Bartolo Colon hit his first home run at the age of 42.
Something about it took him 30-some seconds to round the bags.
I read that article. It was hilarious.
Should have taken him longer. I mean, seriously, if I was him and I'd been playing ball for 20 years and I suddenly hit my first home run, I might stop and take a selfie.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
Seriously.
Of all the people
you're probably never going to hit another one.
Right. Of all the people that should be able to admire that thing, he should have stood halfway between home and first and just waited till that ball completely went out of the ballpark or whatever. But I agree with you. Yeah, But, hey, good for him, man.
Yeah, I'm happy with it.
It's amazing the guy's still in the league, and he's still performing decent, and he hit a dinger.
I mean, he's really kind of a marvel when you look at the guy and you look at the production you're getting out of him. And, he's probably not going to be, he'll probably end up in the bullpen.
Sure.
Zach Wheeler's going to come back at some point. And it's just kind of funny. All they did last year was make fun of his hat coming off when he had an at-bat and stuff. And he's pretty much an American League pitcher and stuff like that. But did you see the home run?
No, I didn't. I actually didn't.
Oh, no. It was like an inner half fastball, and he turned on it, and he plowed it, man.
Yeah, I actually never saw it. I just saw the article that, that he hit one and then the whole thing about the 30 seconds. So I never got to see the replay of it going out of the ballpark.
It was a nice one. I mean, David Ross put one out of the park onto Waveland. That was pretty impressive because it's much harder to do that at Wrigley now.
Right.
Cologne's was every bit as newsworthy as the one Stanton parked on that concourse. I mean, that ball was just absolutely tattooed. But you don't get paid for yardage. You know what I mean?
True.
I mean, Major League,
well,
the way they cover sports is kind of funny. I mean, when it's All-Star Weekend in the NBA, the one thing I really want to watch is the three-point shooting. But, if it's ESPN, whose, ratings are going down and, God knows what they'll be doing, what more people will be leaving ESPN because, Tirico left, right?
Yeah.
But it's all dunks.
Right.
It's all dunks and alley-oops. I mean, here's this three, here's that three, because all they did was shoot threes. Well, I guess we'll show some. But they don't really show basketball. Like the sequence of something. It's look at this dunk, look at that dunk. You're 7 feet tall if you don't dunk.
Well, that's the thing.
News,
yeah, even like plays of the day. It's like a dunk by a 6'10" guy, and I'm like, okay, he's supposed to make that.
On the weekend, half their plays of their day are soccer. And I'm like, how many Americans do you think watch soccer versus how much soccer are you trying to sell?
Wow. Because
all of a sudden the plays of the day are like MSL soccer? Mm-hmm. Like, seriously? Because I saw 10 plays at the ball game that were way better. Did you see Fowler's catch against the Bricks?
No.
All right. This scared baseball thing, the Harper thing, where they walked him the whole game.
Right.
2 intentional walks, 2 outs, runners on first and second or first and third. They walked Harper twice to load the bases. And then Zimmerman hit a fly ball to left one time and then hit like a slow chopper to third that Baez had to come in on the run, scoop it up, and throw him out. He dove head first into first and was still out, Ryan Zimmerman. So he left 14 guys on base. I mean, the walk backfires if anybody else is playing third but Baez because he looks like Manny Machado there. I mean, Nolan Arenado. I mean, you had to make a super-duper great play to get that guy out and save the run from scoring. Mm-hmm. And it's extra innings by then. After the game, the starter who had pitched really well, Tanner Roark, I'm sorry about that. It's his name.
I still don't understand it. It's Rourke.
Anyway, that guy basically said he thought the Cubs played scared baseball. I tweeted, scared baseball was the way the Washington Nationals played when they were by the bricks in Ivy. Because they messed up plays, all three of them. The left fielder, the center fielder, and the right fielder all got a little gun shy around the wall, misplayed balls that helped us.
Okay.
Brian ended up with a double. Another guy ended up, Jason Worth messed one up, and that ended up to be, I thought that was a double. And then Bryce Harper dropped one. Foul line, the wall comes really quick by that foul line.
Right.
And he took a little peek where the wall was. He missed the ball, right? Dexter Fowler. So I'm at the game, right? And the guy hits this ball, and I think it's gone. So basically, when I'm at the game, what I do is I'll look at the ball to judge whether it's out or not. If I think it's out, I'll keep watching the ball. If I think I'm not sure, I'll look at the fielders to see what they're doing. So I'm looking at Jason Hayward, and he's jogging as if the ball's out of here. But Fowler keeps running. And I'm looking, and he made the perfect jump. He jumped up and sideways, almost parallel to the wall, reaches up, catches the ball, and then hits almost flush with his back to the bricks, and then breaks his momentum with his off foot. He looked like Gumby. One of the best pictures you'll ever see. It was a Getty Images. You can find it on Twitter, of him just like, arms and legs in four different directions like a Gumby up against, actually in the vines. Best catch I've ever seen. Way harder than just leaping up over a 8-foot wall and grabbing, whatever. Or, gee, I got a late jump on it, so I'm going to dive and get on SportsCenter. I mean, just because a guy dove doesn't mean it was a great catch. If you get like a late jump on the ball, and then you have to dive to make up for the fact that, you didn't get a good break on the ball, how is that a top 10 play? You know what I mean? I mean, it's just sort of like, okay, whatever. It's an arbitrary kind of.
Yeah, I don't.
What ESPN considers a top play
catch is very difficult. I do agree. There's certain aspects. If it's very arbitrary. If the outfielder gets to camp at the wall and jump up and his glove is above the wall, but he gets to time it, then it's a good play.
Yeah, but it isn't like, oh my God.
Yes, he took a home run away, all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, really, the ball was hit, so high in the air he had time to camp under it. When you make catches like Trout did when he runs all the way, sticks his foot on the fence at a full sprint,
right,
and then happens to be 4 feet over the wall.
But he's in the right spot,
right? But then those are great plays. But the diving plays are so difficult. Even if you get a bad jump, just because you have to correct it, I can still see how that's a great play. But
some of them are easier than others. The ones where you're kind of running forward and you just kind of dive and catch it. I don't think those are terribly difficult. I told you about the play.
I think it was a week ago Monday, and Felix Hernandez was pitching for Seattle, and he's got a 2-1 lead in the bottom of the ninth, and apparently they don't trust their bullpen, and he's got a guy on base, and this center fielder basically face-planted himself into the wall.
Yeah.
I mean, he catches the ball 6 inches from the wall, and as he turns around to look where the wall is, his nose hits the wall.
Yeah.
And you have to hold on to the ball.
Yeah.
And, I mean, to me, short of Aaron Rowan completely cracking his face open when he runs into a chain link fence, at least, but I agree with you. Those type of plays where you have to actually worry about a brick wall with ivy or a chain link fence and you're running full speed where there's a...
Yeah, I mean, the degree of difficulty. You have to factor in how far you have to run, how far you have to jump, and what hazards are around. Like a lot of these corner outfielders now are doing this thing where it gets toward the foul line, they slide feet first.
Right.
They really ought to figure out some way to pad the bottom of that wall. I mean, I've seen guys crack their knees on that.
Right.
You could get like a removable, 3-inch cushion and stick it under there during the game. I don't know if there's like a drainage thing or something, like why the cushion doesn't go all the way down. But they should do something for the players on that one because that one looks dangerous. And you can get kind of twisted up in there. You can't do anything about the tarps, these guys that go flying into the tarps.
No. Yeah.
Some of these walls that are 3 feet high.
Right.
And they're worried about fans jumping on the field. Well, I don't know. I mean, Pittsburgh was like that. It was funny. Our seats for the wild card game last year were really good. And one of the Pirates just swear he would have hit me flat in the chest if I was there for the seats I had.
Mm-hmm.
It was so cool. Those plays I like. You know, but some of these, I know you have to come up with some top plays, but I mean, seriously, how hard was that? If I can make it, or if I've made it, then it can't be that hard, right? But some of these ones where you're running 20 miles an hour for 200 feet, and you had to pick a spot at the crack of the bat, and then you jump up, and the ball happens to be there, and you catch it. I mean, that's impressive,
right?
Some of these Kevin Kiermaier jobs are just seriously,
yeah.
And then what was the other Cub thing people were complaining about was sending Jason Hayward. Did you see that play? They sent Hayward in extra innings. Brian hit.
No, because all these plays you keep bringing up were Derby Day.
Oh, right.
I was not watching baseball during
Nyquist was going to win.
Derby Day.
Well, I don't understand Derby Day. It's 2 minutes. It's a 2-minute race.
There's more than one race.
Well, right.
It's a party amongst friends.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was listening to Howard Sudbury. He was talking up because Arlington opened this weekend.
Yeah.
They had zebra races, ostrich races.
Oh, did they really?
Can you?
Well, they always open.
You're
on
over the
Day,
limit, but
yeah.
I mean, a zebra race would be kind of fun. I guess they're equines, right?
It's like
they're
watching
type of horse.
the mutton races at the rodeo.
The mutton races?
Yeah.
What's a mutton race?
You get the little kids that go on the back of a lamb and they
hold
on for dear life.
Nice. Well, I guess that's cute. So where do you think the Sox will be in a week? Who you playing? You got who you playing tonight?
Playing Texas. We get to go to
You're
New
in
York.
Texas, and then you go to the Yankees.
And then who do they have after the Yankees?
You got a day off on Monday?
Yeah, and Thursday, I think.
Oh, my gosh. It's a vacation. Well, you swept Texas, and you beat them yesterday. You seem to have their number.
They're losing right now, but and it's in a delay, apparently. So.
Yeah, there's rain all over the country. I don't think Pittsburgh, if they're home, I don't think they're going to get their game in.
I think in Texas, unless it's
the Yankees.
Does it rain in Texas?
Oh, when it rains, it pours, man. They get some nasty rainstorms in Texas. And they don't have a roof in Arlington like they do in Houston, right? Arlington's an open air.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if they get that game in.
My calendar's loading.
Okay. Yeah, the Yankees are a mess. The Yankees can't hit, although they kind of went in the press and said some things. And
then
it
we
looked
get
like
the
they
Astros and then the Royals.
Hitting better. Well, okay, the Royals is going to be high noon for the Royals.
So, well, here's the stretch.
Have you played them yet?
No. Here's the stretch of the Sox season that we talked about before. You have to win your division. So after they get done with the Rangers, they have Thursday off. Then they have the following Monday off. They play the Yankees over the weekend.
Okay, so next Tuesday starts.
Right, where they come home, and they get the Astros for 3, the Royals for 3, and then the Indians for 3. Then they go back to Kansas City for 3. So now all of a sudden you got to beat your division.
Trying to think, how many games have you played against the Indians? Did one of those get rained out? You started the season in Cleveland, didn't you?
No, Minnesota.
Oh, Minnesota. Okay, you had one series with Cleveland, I thought, or did you have two?
Yes, and I believe we won 2 out of 3.
But you haven't seen Detroit.
Correct.
And you haven't seen Kansas City.
Correct. So we've got 6 games coming up in Kansas City, 3 more with the Indians, plus the Astros, then the Mets.
Mets are going good.
It just never gets easy, man.
The weird thing is the Mets are doing it with the bats.
Yeah.
Their number one starter, they're talking about all sorts of stuff.
Until they got to San Diego. Then they decided the Mets decided they couldn't hit in San Diego. They still won 2 out of 4, but they got shut out 2-0.
Maybe it's always funny when teams go, East Coast, North teams, like the Rose Bowl where Michigan would go against USC.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be like, if I was a college kid and I lived in Michigan in the winter and I was in Southern California for a week where it's in the 80s and I could go to the beach and do the Lowry's Beef Bowl and stuff, I don't know how focused I'd be on playing winning football.
Right.
Remember that stretch where the Big Ten lost, I don't know how many Super Bowl or Rose Bowls in a row?
Yeah.
I always figured that had something to do with it. The Mets losing in San Diego, I don't know if they had, who they played before
happy
then.
to be by the beach.
Hey, ball players are human too. Got a little extra sun, stayed up late, time change, whatever. I mean, all these guys, talking about the, how tough the schedule is with all the travel and the, day game following a night game, stuff like that. I mean, it's hard for us to tell what effect that has.
Sure.
The Cubs are going to play a lot of day games this year, and I think Madden is smart, rotating people.
That would be the only thing about the Cubs is they had 2 rainouts recently.
Well, we just had our third yesterday.
Yeah, so now all of a sudden, come July and September, all of a sudden there's going to be a lot of games.
Well, that's why it was important they get this game in tonight.
Right.
Because they're going to play a doubleheader tomorrow, split doubleheader. So they're going to play Monday's game first, so I'm going to go to that game. And then I think our doorman wanted the Wednesday. He is off on Wednesday night, so he always wants our Wednesday night ticket. So I'm going to go to the day game. And it looks like the Cubs, if they get this game in, we're going to play a doubleheader in August to make up one, and then they added an off-day game in July, which is on the north side of the All-Star break. So it's not too bad if they can stop with it. The Pirates coming to town, we want to get those games in, and we want to beat them. They're gonna be coming in trying to get even, and yeah, I don't know about the Padres. I mean, they seem to get shut out a lot. They were shut out early, all the time. They don't seem to be hitting. I don't know that Matt Kemp is really a guy you want to target. He's another right-handed hitter, but he's another bat that you could probably get. I don't even know what his contract is. It's big. This team's a flaming mess, and changing horses in midstream. I just, if I was an owner and I had a general manager and he had a plan, and I'm like, how long's your plan going to take? And he says 5 years, and after 18 months, you're like, well, this ain't working. Well, it wasn't supposed to.
Right.
Like them talking about firing this manager in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I'm like, I tweeted to Pablo Ozuna, he should fire them. Right? You got rid of all the players, and the team ain't winning, and you're going to blame me?
Well,
he took over for Bobby Cox. He was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And his reward is going to be, we're going to get rid of all our players, and then we're going to get rid of you.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you going to replace him with?
Right.
Jim Riggleman?
The manager that supposedly can handle young talent or whatever you want to call it? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it takes a lot of patience. I mean, that was the thing with Piniella. Piniella had no patience for, he could never have managed last year's team with all these rookies, Not forward-thinking enough. This modern day and age.
Right.
I mean, think of Dusty Baker dealing with young people that are now 45 years younger than him. So I don't know how he's going to be able to relate to him, even though he's a baseball lifer. I mean, it's not the same game anymore, dude.
Well, Joe Madden's 70.
No, he's 60.
No.
Joe Madden, he's 60. And Dusty Baker's 67. Madden's not 70. His number is 70 on his back, but Joe Madden's only 60. 60 is the new 40.
60 is the new 40.
Let's hope so. I think that's going to be my new mantra. Put that on a T-shirt.
Yeah, right.
let's wrap it up for tonight. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we'll be back. We'll have to see if we keep putting it up on YouTube Live or not. Maybe we will. You don't seem to mind. You're good with this, right?
Yeah.
I don't know that we couldn't really do the camera tonight because it was kind of short notice. But you could still get our podcasts on the website, thebackrowboys.com, or look for us on iTunes or on Stitcher.com. Anything else to add there, Hutch?
No, I think we covered pretty much everything.
Okay, thanks everybody for listening, and the Back Row Boys will be back next week. We'll run some closing music, and we'll get out of Dodge.
Do we have to do that?
Yeah, it's tradition.
All right.
Gotta have closing music.
Now I can't find. Oh, there it is. All right, ready?
Yeah. Lead off single for Fowler. All right.
The views, opinions, rants, and rampages expressed on Dart Talk do not